I think the jury made the right decision.
I agreed with the verdict, and that's probably not a popular opinion among most people, but just looking at the evidence, I agreed with the verdict.
I think the jury made the right decision based on the evidence presented.
Those are the opinions of President Carter and Charles Barkley, or, as unfortunately far too many people think of it, a white man and a black man's opinion. As simplistic as that is, if you want to understand why Charles Barkley and President Carter agree with the verdict, I'll make several videos in an attempt to explain why the jury arrived at that verdict and why the evidence supports that verdict. The thing that people need to keep in mind is they don't actually know the story. What they know is the media's presentation of the story. If you really want to know the story, there's facts that have not been properly presented by the major media. And this case is a very dramatic example of media malpractice.
Don't allow the media, the mainstream media, to keep force-feeding y'all with this BS.
This story has been severely distorted in the minds of millions of Americans. You need to understand, of all the stories that the media could be reporting on, the reason this story became a national story is because it was pitched by a public relations firm to major media. I recommend this article in the Washington Post. It was called Trayvon Martin's Story Found the Media. And here's a key paragraph. A pivotal, if little-known figure in the Martin story's development was Ryan Julison, an Orlando public relations executive who began working with the Martin family at the behest of its attorneys, Benjamin Crump and Natalie Jackson. Ryan Julison pitched this story to the media, and he used an outdated photo where Trayvon Martin looks 12 years old. Using that outdated photo was one of the initial deceptions used to sell this story. Now compare that to the picture that Trayvon Martin's father gave to the police in order to identify him, or the pictures of Trayvon Martin on his phone, or the video of Trayvon Martin at the 7-Eleven. Mainstream media and this deceptive PR campaign have done such damage to our public discourse about the Trayvon Martin-George Zimmerman case that I don't think I can dispel all the myths that they've created and undo all the damage they've done in a single video. I'm asking you to stick with this channel and not allow people like Ryan Julison and Benjamin Crump to damage this channel just because I'm pointing out facts. Facts that include that there's zero evidence that George Zimmerman is a racist. In fact, he championed the cause of a black man, a homeless black man who was assaulted by a police officer's son. And he was printing up flyers and calling for justice for this black man. But in spite of that, the Martin family lawyer, Benjamin Crump, tried to make this into a racial issue. As the CNN article points out, Crump slammed down the race card right from the start, where he asks, why is this kid suspicious in the first place? And then he insists, I think a stereotype must have been placed on the kid.
Had the family not called us and nobody said nothing, y'all know it would have been another black child killed and nobody would have said a word. They took George Zimmerman's word that this was a young black man who, because he had a hoodie, was suspicious.
What Crump is claiming is not true. We have the recording of Zimmerman's call, so we know what he said.
We've had some break-ins in my neighborhood, and there's a real suspicious guy. This guy looks like he's up to no good, or he's on drugs or something. It's raining, and he's just walking around looking about.
Right here, right in front of this house. He was walking like in the grassy area, like up towards, kind of between these two poles. It was rainy, and he was just leisurely looking at the house.
Where was he standing at when he stopped?
Right in front of 1460.
On the sidewalk or in the grass?
No, in the grassy area.
Right in the grassy area?
Yes.
Okay. Like about right in front of where the car is?
Yes, sir. I left for the grocery store and I just felt like something was off about him. Right. And there's been a history of break-ins in that building, and I called previously about this house.
Right.
When the police arrived at this house, when I called the first time, the windows were open and the door was unlocked. And the police came and secured it. So I said, you know what, it's better to just call. And okay. I kept driving. I passed him, and he kept staring at me and staring around, looking around. He stopped, and he like looked around, and that's what threw me off. Was it's raining. I didn't understand why somebody would be just stopping in the rain, especially. You know, it wasn't like he was trying to run to get out of the rain, and I had never seen him before. Didn't look like he was exercising.
Crump tried to con people into thinking it would be crazy to consider Martin's behavior as suspicious. So I thought, how can I address that specific point? What I'll do is I'll Google suspicious and Trayvon Martin, just on the chance that someone else besides Zimmerman saw behavior from Trayvon Martin that was suspicious. And you know what I found? I actually found a result. I found that the school police officer also deemed Trayvon Martin's behavior as being suspicious. Well, what do you think about that? Doesn't that refute the idea that it must have been race for why Zimmerman would conclude that Trayvon Martin was suspicious? Zimmerman isn't the only one to observe suspicious behavior from Trayvon Martin. This was not about race. And if you look at Trayvon Martin's history, the text of boasting of the fights that he was in, of complaining that he didn't make his opponent bleed enough, where friends were warning him, you're getting in too many fights, you're turning into a hoodlum, and you're going to end up with a bullet planted in your chest. And what a large part of mainstream media and alternative media are guilty of is journalistic malpractice. This is another dramatic example, and I'll try as best I can to explain the situation. I might not be able to explain everything in this video, so I'm asking you, don't allow these people to undermine this channel. If they've successfully duped you into getting emotionally attached to a narrative, I'm asking you to stick with this channel and let me explain the facts. If you were outraged at mainstream media manipulation, please use the tools below to share this video with everyone you can.